Yo ho ho! What's going on, guys? This is Grim Reaper bringing you One Punch Man, chapter 120 review. This chapter was a nice transition chapter, but I want to focus on something in particular. I really did this early because there's one main thing that I just got the spark of, and I want to put it out there. And I think this is going to decide a huge factor of the future. A few chapters ago, we got the first appearance of Garou in a very, very long time. Puri came into his cell and ended up getting thrashed when Garou woke up in front of his presence. Now he's free. We technically don't know what's going to happen around him, how he got inside of the cage, or what the situation is going to be. But there's another peculiarity that's happening almost coincidentally at the same time, and that's Genos. We've been seeing flashes of Genos washing dishes or reacting to the different explosions and extremely destructive attacks that have been happening underneath his feet. But it is only until now that Genos has taken the field, and we saw previously what happened with the fight up against G5 to help display his power and strength. Garou bodied Puri like nothing, and he's at a very, very high level right now that we just don't understand. Now, I don't want to do a complete versus analysis for them, but it's going to be important to understand their powers so that you understand why I think they're very, very comparable and why I believe that the next big matchup being set up is Garou versus Genos. So as I already mentioned, the strongest points in my belief for this is that they're both being introduced into this arc around the same time as backup, secondary players, the reinforcements, the second wave of action that's coming in. Granted, we know that we haven't even gotten close to the climax of all the other fights that have been postponed. We got the Gums fight, we got the Atomic fight, you got the Amai fight. There's a lot of pieces being positioned in certain places with a few free agents on the side, like Darkshine for example. And I can't help but notice that the rest of the free agents could really have an impact on the fight. Now, I had this thought a while back when we started to discuss in the One Punch Man podcast all the different free agents that were available. I don't think that Garou could beat all of them, but Garou is one of the few villains now that's free. Before we were considering Nyan and G5 as also free variables, but they're now defeated, along with Orochi, another one of the free variables. So there aren't that many cadres left to be matched up with. Sure, we can speculate that one or two of these S-Class may need assistance and may need a double team to take down their respective cadres, but we can't confirm any of those situations yet, aside from maybe Atomic Samurai, who seems to be gaining the advantage in this fight even though it is still tough. In their previous bout, Genos and Garou really got into it. Now, Garou had just gotten through an extensive fight after being injured for a long time and exhausted with the A and B8, a group of heroes that came after the Hero Hunter in the midst of the monster invasion. Garou was able to body them and still come back to put hands on Genos, and it was tough. Genos is amazing at this level. We like to dub him EC Genos. His destructive capacity, his hand-to-hand capability on par with Garou himself. Now, like we said before, we can speculate that because Garou was exhausted and injured, that his skills may not have been to the degree that we wanted them to, but Garou, as a character in particular, is known for perseverance and growth in crazy situations. In that very same fight, he was able to outmaneuver and almost prepare a counterattack up against Genos' Bang and Bomb with a huge tree in his hand before Phoenix Man interfered. In that fight, Genos also mentioned to Garou who his master was. And though I don't think Garou's going to put two and two together, it would be interesting to see an intersection of Genos, Saitama, and Garou all at the same time, even if Garou doesn't end up fighting Saitama in that particular instance. One thing that we do know is certain is that Garou will face Saitama at the end of this. But I think it would be that much more exciting if he fought his disciple first. Now, I'm not saying that it's 100% guaranteed that Genos would lose to Garou, because honestly, in terms of comparison matchups and feats, and arguably what we should be seeing, I can't put Garou over Genos right now. Genos is a monster, and in particular with these upgrades, he could be almost unstoppable. On the other hand, Garou literally just ran through Rover, Hero Garou, and Orochi. back to back to back and was fine. We're talking about not only incineration cannon from Rover over and over again, but Orochi hit him head on point blank as well. And he actually stopped one of his fist punches as well. Garou's durability, endurance, defense, all of it. He's a true dragon. And I almost want to give him the high dragon ranking because of all those feats. There's not other dragons who are surviving those things. I'm not sure if Rover can survive all that. I'm not sure if Goketsu can survive all that. Maybe EC can because he's tough, but we're really arguing some crazy names right now. And that's the entire point. That if Garou is doing things that these top dragons are expected to be doing, or are even questionable if they even could do it, that says something about him. And these discussions or conversations about Garou not being a high dragon yet, or him being a mid dragon, I think it's all rubbish and creditless bullshit. We're disregarding feats and positions to comfort ourselves for this portion of the story. Yeah, it makes it seem like this arc is gonna move that much faster if Garou is already a high dragon, if fucking Genos is already a high dragon with these upgrades. But that also means that we're gonna be seeing higher and stronger threats along the way. We're no longer going to be encountering those groups of demons that give us challenges for these characters in particular. It doesn't have to be that way. There's plenty of ways of storytelling, and one is a genius for it. But that's really all I'm saying, is that consider Genos versus Garou to be a pending possibility and a huge, huge matchup if it does come. There were a few more things to address in the chapter that helped move the plot forward. Genos gained some information and intelligence that Drive Knight had in reconnaissance of all the monsters and cadres in the association. When Ganma was finally returned to safety with the Hero Association's forward headquarters, we found out that Nyan is actually alive. And through the dialogue, it seems like Drive Knight's referring to the fact that he already had keeping Nyan alive in his plan. He quickly reassured Genos whenever he questioned him, or whenever Nyan spoke, that he understood and that he'd be able to handle it if anything came up. But I'm not necessarily sure if it's a translation issue, or if there's some mismatching of info, or if we should be seeing this dialogue as deceitful, because he previously stated in combat that he was no longer going to try to capture Nyan, he was going to try to kill him. And then at the end of the fight, he mentions that he terminated him and that the termination was complete. So I feel like more than anything, Drive Knight himself gave us reason to believe that he'd be dead already. And not in terms of a deceitful sense, because he wasn't talking to anybody whenever he said these things. These were just in-fight dialogue, He said it out loud, but it was more of a mental thought, He just processing things out. So I'm not sure what to believe. Is this something that is an issue with translation, as to him claiming that Nyan was alive? Are previous chapters issues with the translations? Because he seems pretty confident from the drawing that he knows that Nyan is alive the entire time. So I'm just not sure exactly how I'm supposed to be taking this. The rest of the dialogue is pretty self-explanatory. Drive Knight explains that by gaining information from these enemies that are particular and different and special, that they can improve and have better heroing tactics, which is just fine. I want to shout out Genos for how he responded to Sitch. I know that there was a bunch of controversy going on and mistrust amongst Child Emperor, the executives, and the heroes. I don't know if it's completely called for to hate Sitch because of it. He was being a dick and kind of a bitch for how he was treating some of the more trusted or heroes that shouldn't be questioned. But at the same time, I can understand his stance of being unsure and how catastrophic could aspire a trade of jeopardizing this type of plan be. I'm wondering if that'll be a story concept later on. The Association and Heroes, they've been described as not necessarily having tensions, but there's definitely some controversy amongst the Association in general. The Association isn't just great lullaby stories of happiness and perfection. We've seen that they take extreme action in terms of catering towards their funding to ensure that they can maintain their financial status. And the attitude of heroes in terms of disasters is unacceptable in terms of responding to issues. There's too many of these guys who could like decide to just not come or only show up when there's a tough enough threat. And there's a lot of issues out there. Sure, the A, B, and C class, as well as the A class, are suited for that task, but you know, some of these guys don't even come from meteors. So, what can you really say about the responsibility of the heroes? I'm wondering if, like, later on, there will be a strong chasm between the heroes' opinions and how they function with the association's needs and the executives' viewpoints on how they go about those needs. It'd be interesting to see if one decides to go into that, but I don't think it'll be that important or that big if it does. Nyan's stock definitely rises with him being alive. He tanked all that, got stabbed with the chest and everything, and still alive. Very, very impressive. I want to say that Drive Night stock goes down because of the understanding mishap that we have here that I pointed out and explained. But even if it did, it wouldn't be like great because he's still like incapacitated Nyan, which is the entire point. Maybe we could even say that his stock should go up because he thought he wouldn't be able to capture Nyan, but he ended up capturing Nyan. But that's more attributed to like how tankish Nyan is. Alright, but that's it for this week's review. Make sure you check out the Discord if you want to discuss with us about my ideals, theories, or anything about the chapter in general. We talk about One Punch Man and One Piece, Seven Deadly Sins, all different kinds of manga all day long. So come to the Discord if you want to conversate and use your time wisely. Also check out our other videos. The live reaction for 120 recently came out. The One Punch Man podcast for 120 will be out in a few days. And make sure you check out our Patreon. If you'd like to support us and what we do here and help us grow as a channel and a community, then check out our Patreon where you can donate in different tiers from $1 to $5, $10, $20, $50, and receive all different kinds of perks, prizes, and privileges, along with access to different videos, uncut, complete full versions of the One Punch Man podcast and other features. We'll see y'all boys next time. Yo ho ho!